One of them was Dr. Uddhav Bakurian, who did, of course, he did his PhD from Jawaharlal University, and another was a fellow from Jaipur, Vinod Bhardwaj. But after some time, he had his own problem and was in Jaipur, and it was not practically possible to come every time all the way from Jaipur again to engage himself in the border areas. That's why we had to drop him. And we had two advisors, R.K. Shuklaji, with the former Director General of SSB, is the former, because we thought that he's a man who, because SSB is playing a very important role in the border. Similarly, our armed police force, APF we call it, because SSB on the Indian side, APF on the Nepali side. These two, security agencies are given the charge of the border. After the SSB was involved in this thing, then suddenly Nepal government also decided to put AAF, and then both the sides are cooperating that way, and that's why we decided it is very senior and very knowledgeable persons about whole things, and we also decided to work with him, and our Suklaji was kind enough to give opinions and advices, and some of his very good recommendations have also been incorporated into the report. Similarly, we had one of the advisors, former Home Secretary, Umesh Prasad Mainali, because all the, that's why we had 5-member committee altogether, and we decided to do this study. And I must tell you that we did not prepare any kind of questionnaire type of thing, then went for rigorous research, but we purely visited the areas, interviewed the people concerned, then we noted down whatever they said, then and tried to analyze those things, and put some of these interviews have also put in the annex when we visited the field. There are some interesting dialogue also on, after our visit to the field. We could know those opinions with regard to different problems faced by the people in the border. That's why this is about 130-page report, 100-page the text, 30 pages about NXA, and our former advisor, Sukaji, was telling me, when do you publish the report? And I said that now I have to work on it again, I have to edit it and go through the draft, and because it's a BBKF project, and I must take the approval of the BBKF also, if we are going to, because since we are disseminating everything, we have already organized 5 meetings in Nepal, starting from Kakarvita to far western region. 5 meetings in Nepal for dissemination of the report, and three in India, Patna, Lucknow, and this is the last one in New Delhi. That's why, since the report is already disseminated in a larger audience, it is better to publish it also, because such reports have not yet come. We have many books, some of them have written some books on border, some reports in the local press, but there is a difference between the local press and the actual findings. There is a big gap when you try to find those gaps. If you see some newspaper report today about border, this is part, this is infringement, interference, and all that. Sometimes, penetration. They try to blow up the story sometimes, but sometimes it's also correct. Give some factual assessment of the whole things. This is how. That's why we try to analyze those reports also published in the press, and our own findings. We try to fill the gaps, if there are any gaps between the published reports, and that's why now I don't take much time. I hand over it to our chairman. I am very happy that the person who had supported it and very spontaneously now he is the chairman of the whole meeting, and he will just take over things, and I think he will conduct within 2 hours of things.
Thank you very much, Professor Baral. Professor Baral, in his prefatory comments, has outlined to you the manner in which the study was conducted, the manner in which it was conceived. I think it's very important that while this is a work produced by two scholars of eminence, they took care to check the practicability of some of the recommendations made by them, to understand what really goes on the borders, by associating practitioners in the conception of the design of the study, and also while the study proceeded to get their advice on their interim findings. And it's important because of the nature of the India-Nepal relationship, which is distinct and different from any other relationship that we have in our contiguity, because this is a relationship that makes people interact with each other, people of the two countries, in a manner in which we don't interact with Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, or even Bhutanese and Myanmaris. And that is because of the resident population of 28 million in Nepal. It is estimated that between 4 to 5 million live and work in India. And many Indians living in the Tarai, adjacent to the Tarai in UP and Bihar, because of the excellent medical facilities that have developed in Nepal. They cross the border for medical attention. I was surprised that quite deep inland in Dharan, which is not really at the border but well inside, there is the second largest public health institution of Nepal, which was set up after Chandrasekhar's visit to Nepal, and it was up and running within 3.5 years of the commitment that Government of India made, which is a record because government's record in generally in executing development cooperation works has been not so good in our neighborhood and not so efficient. When I visited that institution for the first time, I discovered that in the ophthalmology ward and in the orthopedics ward, 70% of the patients were from India. And now in the Nepalese medical colleges and other institutions, we find Indian students doing there. So it's a two-way process. If there is a better school on the Nepalese side or the Indian side, children cross the border and attend those schools. And we have other types of borders. We have unfriendly borders with China and with Pakistan. We have a border between India and Bangladesh, which is a very odd border because we have fenced it, like pretty much like the American-Mexican border. But it's a fence which allows, through the barbed wire fence, one of the largest animal exports from one country to another, which is banned because a huge number of cows and buffaloes from North India that traverse the whole of North India, the Gangetic Doab, reach Bengal and cross into Bangladesh through that fenced border. And then you have the border of Nepal, which is completely open. Our Prime Minister visited Nepal twice already in his short 6-7 month tenure, and the first visit in August he went and spoke in the Constituent Assembly, and he addressed the issue of the border in a very positive spirit when he said that the border should serve as a bridge and not a barrier between our two countries. And that speech resonated very well with the informed public opinion in Nepal. And when Vijay Pandey, the famous Nepalese journalist, visited India next and spent some time with me, he said, you know, Jayant, what you diplomats have not been able to do in 30 years, your new Prime Minister did in 30 minutes in his speech in the Constituent Assembly. And that is because he spoke in an idiom which was pleasing to his audience, but he also touched a chord because he spoke about the people-to-people relationship. So I'm not going to talk very much because today's program has been structured in a way that Dr. Uddhav Thakurel, who was also at JNU, he's a PhD from JNU, so also is Dr. Baral. And I'm not so educationally qualified, but I was also a student at JNU. between 72 and 74. And when we set up our JNU Alumni Association in Nepal, in my time, Professor Alka Acharya came from JNU, and we had a very good gathering, including the then Prime Minister of Nepal, Baburam Bhattarai, who was also a JNU product. And till then, I used to assume that I was the oldest member from the JNU fraternity in Kathmandu, when Dr. Baral reminded me that he was already in the SIS in 70-71, and SIS was merged in JNU a year before the MA classes opened in 72. So he's the senior most representative of one of the premier Indian institutions in Nepal, and Uddhav also belongs to the same setup. So we have a kind of academic bond in a sense between us, and so it's a double pleasure for me. One, because it's a subject that interests me greatly, and second, because we have fellow students from the university. And I must say that it's very good that you have kept in touch with all the Indian professionals and colleagues who have helped you with the study. And so I hope all of us present here would have questions. We would try to restrict the statements to 45 minutes. I'll have a few comments at the end. You'll speak for 30 minutes, is that good? And you'll then speak for 5 minutes?
You can like it.
Okay, I'll take 2-3 minutes at the end. And any other persons who want to speak on the subject, address the subject, there will be no restrictions. We'll try to wind up at 5 to 5. And then there is a very short book release function immediately after that, for which Mr. Muchkund Dubey will be here, and he'll do the book release. So, Uddhav, over to you now.
Thank you, Chairperson and the Excellency, for your kind words. And thank you, Professor Baral, our advisor, Mr. Shukla. I could see lot many dignitaries, Professor Ashish Nandi, Professor Rajesh Kharat, Professor again Jain sir from West Bengal, and in this side I could see my guru, Professor Achetu, Ambassador Governor Vijay Pratap ji, and from embassy I could see Wagle sir, even Dhondi sir, and etc. So before going to detail this thing, I think Professor Baral already highlighted how it could come out, and even nitty-gritty was made. So I'll directly go to the this report, and I think better if we switch this light off, so that even PowerPoint can be easily accessible to all. As mentioned, the title was Nepal-India Open Border Problem and Prospects, and as Baral sir mentioned, it is by and large field-based study, findings and etc. We had to give this this academic flavor. That is why Baral sir highlighted that we have to work out before we publish it. But these highlights are also very important due to a couple of facts. Even Ambassador Prasad has already highlighted about the subject matter. So the objective of the study was to explore the gaps in effective border management, if any, to document the perceptions of the real beneficiaries of the provisions, and to minimize the present controversies through facts. It is because, as Baral sir already mentioned, neither in Nepal nor in India this kind of study was done before. That is why whatever information scholars or people have, they try to use, sometimes misuse this thing. That is why I think this study try to address this very problem. And as Baral sir said, it will be owned by the both of the government, because BPKF being this joint initiative of Nepal and India, I think that is how we also took this very opportunity to bring these findings out. So as far as methodology is concerned, we visited 36 different border points and interviewed, as Baral sir mentioned, 202 people in a formal manner, and obviously while observing, while walking down to the border, and this we quite often questioned and asked kind of concerns from this border users as well. And out of these 202, we could access up to this CDO level in Nepal, and here it is called district magistrate, and even we consulted Consulate General of Indian Embassy, Birganj. So and it is up to it went up to this border users even, and obviously we could interview security personnels, daily travelers, and etc. So this formal interview was taken from 202 stakeholders, and obviously we did observation as well, and we also try to engage with many this secondary data. For example, unpublished report, articles, news reports, books, even blogs. Sometimes we use this YouTube as well, because many this TV stories were kept in YouTube, and it was very interesting for us to access this while preparing this report. As Baral sir mentioned, it is this report is quite long, in the sense it is 136 pages, and we could have make it more lengthy, but as others also referred to, if it is very lengthy, then no one would be interested to read. That is why we try to cut short. But while publishing book, I think it may go up. And one information we'll have to share before, because we didn't distribute this whole report today, and it is available in soft copy, and whatever email you have given while registering your name, I think it will be easier for us to send this report so that you can comment on this. So out of 136 page report, we have divided it into section, 10 sections, and first section would be background, objective, and study methodology. Second would be this Nepal-India open border, genesis, dynamics, etc., and why people cross the border, like human movement, health, and etc. The third session would be about trade, and we try to divide this trade into two, formal and informal. Sometimes even illegal also we could trace out. And section 4 would be the major issues identified during the fieldwork. And section 5 was human trafficking, because that is also the issue while talking about open border. And section 6 was all about dams, barrage, and other disturbance in the border. And section 7 was border dispute or encroachment issue, claims and counterclaims, facts and figures. And section 8 would be border security and new dynamics. And the second last would be major causes behind the border related problems. And finally we gave our observations and suggestions. So that was the outline of the report. So while talking about report, as Chairman Prasad mentioned earlier, like India, Nepal, even if we have only two borders, India and China, two bordering country, India and China, we are also fortunate enough to have both experience. We have very rigid border towards China. It is, even if it is not fenced due to this geographical location, it is this thing, and obviously one can't enter towards China without this visa and etc. But we have access up to 30 kilometers of border in this, that is obvious. But also we are fortunate enough to have this open border as well. So towards India we have open border, towards China we had this restricted or closed border kind of thing. And you must be knowing the fact this border towards India is a bit lengthy than borders towards China, and we have some 22 districts which join this which are bordering district to India, and whereas 15 districts as bordering district to China. So while talking about this genesis and dynamics of Nepal-India border, there is one illusion I think we'll have to clarify. Many people refer to Sugauli Sandhi, that was 1816, saying that it tried to, even some people suggest that 1950 treaty was the thing which provided this opportunity to have this open border. But while going through the literature, in any agreement between India and Nepal, or even British India and Nepal, there is no reference about this open border. Neither 1823 nor 1816, neither even 1950. There is no mention about this, but it is long practice. That is what we could say. But this very aspect was available in the treaty. It was signed. This is tripartite treaty between Nepal, British India, and this India. In that, some reference were made to make this open, and particularly it was referred for those who were serving for the British Army. Otherwise, in any legal document, any treaties, this open border has not been mentioned. That is what we found. And while talking about this, there is if we try to understand why this border was open, then there are a couple of arguments. For example, to facilitate the Nepalese from the hilly region to join British Army, to make a smooth flow of British and India consumer goods into Nepal, economic purpose, free movement of timber, border, firewood, herbs, hides and skin and various other raw materials, and to continue the common culture and civilization link between the people of Tarai and northern plains of India. And this picture was now modified as all the Nepalese belonging to Hill and the Tarai have some kinds of cultural and other links with the people of India. The new recruits are primarily from the Hill ethnic group. So why Britishers opened the border? These were the causes. And I mean, to understand this Nepal-India border phenomenon, I think this very quote by Vidyavil Singh Kangsakar would give a kind of overview. He mentioned in his one of the articles, Nepal-India border is unique in the world in the sense that people of both countries can cross it from any point, despite the existence of border checkposts at several locations. The number of checkposts means for carrying out bilateral trade, that is 22. However, only at 6 transit points out of them, the movement is permitted to nationals of the third countries who require entry and exit visa to the cross border. Within this very paragraph, you could sense what is Nepal-India border. And even if there are 22 trade routes, but people can cross border from each and every point. That is why some people argue that it is porous, but it is not porous, totally open border. We argue in our report. So if we ask why people cross the border, then there are many reasons, and I think this is not the very unique thing we are mentioning. Everyone knows. For example, health, because nowadays in both sides there are some good health institutions. For example, for eye checkup, Indian go to Nepal, and for the rest of the thing, Nepalese come to India, even to Delhi. And business and livelihood, that is very crucial. And in that also we could sense paradigm shift. Earlier, many Indians residing in border area could cross the border because in Nepal rice and etc. were very cheap. Now it is just opposite. That is why many Nepalese depends upon this Indian market for their livelihood. And this data said that some 25 workers in the construction, even construction sector also, and this is very psychological. We all know that in South Asia, this work is not given kind of dignity. That is why if somebody is willing to do some manual work or something like that, he or she has to go a bit away from the society. And that is why it is not one way but two-way traffic. For example, many poor and marginalized from Bihar and UP travel to Nepal to do some small kind of work, quote unquote. I don't agree that work would be divided like superior and inferior, but it is the practice. And so the case for Nepalese as well. And you could see, even if a young can't do this farming and etc. work in Nepal, he or she travel to India and do this and make money and go back. That is what is the thing. And education, obviously, that is also the case. For example, in the bordering areas, there are not many medical institutions nowadays. That is why it is in a way formed for this to attract this Indian aspirants who are for the MBBS and etc. education. And so the case, for example, as Prasad already mentioned, lot many products from GNU are from Nepal, and even in this hall I can count maybe not less than 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Nepalese. So this is the case. And obviously family relation, I have told, and migration, this is seasonal and permanent, and for that also this livelihood also really is one of the factors. And even sometimes it is to avoid conflict as well. And there was data, huge number of people migrated to India while there was this conflict, Maoist insurgency. So as we mentioned earlier, there are 22 trade routes. I should not go into detail, and it is available in your this thing. And out of 22, 15 have been specified for Nepal's third country import-export, and these are these 50s. And also India and Nepal signed a rail service agreement in May 2004 to extend cargo train service to the inland container deposit ICD at Birganj. And now I think at least 5 ICDs are being made in Nepal-India border. And this Birganj ICD is already in operation, I think for a couple of years. So as far as trade is concerned, as I mentioned earlier, we try to divide into 3. One is formal trade with all sort of documentation and etc. And another is informal, that is quite huge. For example, nearly 55% people conduct border trade for private consumption. And once it is for private consumption, neither they use any bill nor they go for custom and etc. So that is called informal trade. And obviously there is illegal trade, for example, narcotic and other things. So total value of informal import of agriculture product from India to Nepal amounted to 55 billion in 2012. It was a bit old data, I couldn't put it this updated, sorry for that. So while talking about this, the major issues identified during the fieldwork were, as already mentioned, human trafficking, cross-border crime, smuggling or illegal trade, border dispute or issue of encroachment, lack of coordination among and between the agencies deployed in the border by Nepal and India, issue of insufficient access to Indian currency, issue of harassment of commoners by the border security force, nexus between security agencies and local mafia, issue of no man's land, and even in the concept of this no man's land, Nepal-India border is unique. Somewhere you find no man's land, but the standard we believe is 10 gaja, that means 10 miles, and that is why we are having kind of sensitivity, we are showing kind of sensitivity, oh there is no man's land, but it is done like this, and we are to this is also part of our report. So, and again, mismanagement and disappearance of the border pillars, issue of poor infrastructure in the border, complications due to lack of uniform legal system in border areas, complications due to the inequality among the people residing in bordering area, and anti-India drive by Nepali leadership or party, etc. These are the problems identified. I'll go into detail a bit later on. And while we try to understand this border problem, what we traced out mainly was due to, this Nepal-India border issue become quite controversial due to border dispute and encroachment issue. And it is due to the fact that we didn't resolve this border dispute between India and Nepal. And I think everywhere in the world, if there is the issue of border, then there is issue of dispute. Obviously, it is the case. For example, we also had similar kind of dispute with China. We had identified 32 disputes before we settled the border. But eventually, in 1962, we could sign this border out. Then border agreement out in between India, Nepal, and China. That is how this is less controversial. But even if we started this demarcation of Nepal-India border along with the Sugauli Treaty in 1816, we are yet to sign this issue of this agreement of the border, because there are a couple of controversies, and we tried not to resolve it. I don't know, once we tried to go through this, and we sensed that there were a couple of reasons. For India, I think it was not that much pushing, because India considered Nepal as very friendly country, and they were having problem like Kashmir, even later on this Bangladesh border issue. That is why I think it was not properly addressed. And if we sense about this Nepal's sentiment, and in Nepal, even border become issue for the political mobilization for parties for many years. That is why also I think it was not proposed by Nepali side as well. But I'll come back to the thing, and even Prasad already mentioned about India's initiative to resolve this border problem. And while talking further, I think if we manage this border agreement before, and I think many controversies or many this anti-India sentiment in Nepal would have been decreased. That is what we sense during this study. And while talking about this claim and counterclaim, there are claims and counterclaims at 71 different locations with approximately 60,662 hectares of land between India and Nepal. And out of this Kalapani dispute is the largest one, and interestingly, it was even if it is called the largest issue, but till recently it was not discussed between India and Nepal this bilateral meeting. So that is why these are the issues, and I'll illustrate. I'll go for some pictorial illustration. Then I'll come back to the analysis. And this is from this Ilam, Pashupati Nagar. And it is very interesting. This I think this battery is down. I thought it would be. Anyway. There are two pictures. One this side, this side where these cloths are there. Nearby this there is one pillar. You could just see short pillar near this thing. And this is Nepal-India border. And this house is you could see there is no gap.
There is a pillar. There is Galgalia
I'm talking about this
one
pillar in the corner. That is pillar, and this house is there, and this house is having very specific category. It's a bit lengthy in size, and there are two doors. One door will be open to Nepal side, and one door will be open to India side. So this is the unique characteristic of the border in Ilam, Pashupati Nagar. And if you see the pillar, this is the pillar of Galgalia, Bihar, and this pillar now belongs to the boundary of SSB. And there is also, in between there is Mechi River, and people, Indians, this SSB and others say that it is reference pillar. It is not the exact pillar. It is reference pillar. That is why it doesn't matter whether it is inside India or Nepal, but Nepalese claim that this was the border, and now due to this river it went towards India side, and we'll have to negotiate about this. This is one aspect, and these are the things inside in Nepal-India border. For example, these two pictures, one green and one this thing. So this green one is used by Nepali residents over there in the border, and they try to use this unused land by planting some vegetables and etc. And towards this side, this is there is one tap. It is for Indian residents over the border area. So and then there was even SSB report in this SSB and APF report in Nepal. Out of 82 kind of similar kind of encroachment, both Nepalese and Indians did this, and it was done not for the national purpose or anything, for their personal purpose. And you could see this kind of thing. So by and large, this counter claim and claims are there, not from the state side, but due to the people's their own people's due to the people for their own consumption. So similarly, you could see other things also. For example, there is also tab, and just ahead of the tab there is small border kind of a pillar kind of thing, and on the other side also these are the pillars. So while we observe this border and try to understand this 10 gaza or this demarcation kind of thing, no man's land, then we find that yes, there are problems, but by and large it was due to the greediness of the local people. There was no state in fact acting for this, and as I mentioned, even Nepal armed police force also acknowledge this very fact nowadays, and I'll come to this later on, how effectively this armed police and in India SSB are working to manage this border later on. So for example, another controversial issue was Susta, and we spent one day, whole one day to understand this Susta problem. And due to non-agreement of this Nepal and India for the border, I think this Susta has become kind of controversy, and it has become heaven for these criminals of both the countries. That is what our report said, and we narrated a couple of stories also. And these are the Susta facts. In Susta, now Nepal government's presence is very high, acknowledged. There is SSB camp, there is school, there is village village development committee, and etc. We try to question about this Susta issue also, that you can find in report while in detail. And while seeing these pictorial illustrations, we had a few observations, and these observations were as follows. For example, as I mentioned, Nepal and India border was one of the neglected issue of both the countries till recently. And as I mentioned, we sense the reason, and we already narrated. And but nowadays, and that is why absence of an in-depth research, only a few people can monopolize the agenda, making politicians hesitant to make decisions on the issue. If one has monopoly in interpreting data, he or she wants to take a more populist line. Thus, facts are diluted in the grab of nationalistic position. Such campaigns have served some political parties to score their objective of being nationalist, but it has hardly helped settle the vexing problem of the border. And as I mentioned, now both the government are serious about this Nepal-India border also, and we should thank this Maoist movement due to its sensitivity. I think India started to look after this border in a serious manner, and eventually it deployed this SSB in 2001. And to reciprocate it, Nepal also deployed armed police force in the name of Sashastra Seema Suraksha Bal to all 22 bordering districts. That is why now you could see the security force employed there just to take look after this border problem. And you could sense, we took these two from Nepal armed police force, and the first one pictures, you could see these pictures are the situation of the pillar, and it was posted in one of the Seema Suraksha Prahari Karyalaya. And towards this side it is the map, and it is made by this again this Armed Police Force of Nepal. They tried to even geocode. They went for the scientific method and they tried to allocate all the pillars so that now even if there is this issue of river and etc., even if there is some disaster happen and this border pillar went away, then also one can trace out this. In this manner, now it has been settled. That is why I told you nowadays, due to the sensitivity of both the government, we try to have this proper mapping of the Nepal-India border. And yes, there are questions about this deployment of SSB and Armed Police Force. By and large, it is by locals because, as I mentioned, huge number of border people depend on this border market, and once there is security force, obviously they try to somehow control this illegal or even informal trade in a huge manner. That is why
also the returners cut.
Pardon?
Also the returners cut.
Yes, and obviously since it is open border, there are other factors, and sometimes if one try to control this illegal elements, obviously sometimes locals has to suffer. That is why there is question whether SSB and AFP did well, but by and large response was very good, and even locals say that due to the employment of this security force, security has been good, better than earlier, even this and that we mentioned, and this is entirely there in our report. So, and this is one of the what you say weakness of Nepal-India border, and since it is not updated accordingly, then some regions come to the security force and this border management authority to manipulate. For example, in Bhairava, Bansar, there is this notice is saying that only people can bring goods and materials if it is under 100 rupee, Nepali rupee. So within 100 rupee, only a kg of sugar can be carried. But the people are carrying lot many. I mean, it is allowed. For example, there is this thing, single item. For example, gas, cooker, etc. can be even 2-3 meter cotton, etc. These are the allowed. These are the allowed item. But if you follow the notice, it gives pretext for the security this border management forces if they try to manipulate or misuse their force and take this bribe and etc. So this is one identified thing. Again, there is this thing due to the limited or very poor infrastructure. Ambassador, both the former ambassador are here. They know the border situation, and even others who travel border area, they also know kind of poor infrastructure in the border, and these travelers had to face this kind of problem. So you could see in the picture huge deficit of good management of this transport and etc. That is why also they have to face a lot many problems. This is the picture of this Banbasa area. So you could see even Nepalese, they are going back home with small items also. For example, this plastic chair and etc. And I'll narrate it a bit later on. And this is one photograph. While we were in the field, there was one issue, and the issue was about we were sitting with the CDO Rupandei, and somebody called CDO saying that there was an issue of border encroachment by SSB. While constructing their post, they tried to, they came towards Nepal side. And with this rumor, CDO mobilized all officials along with us to go to the border. And while we went there, we found that there was no issue of this thing. And this SSB even went for the
SSB was building its own building inside India itself. There was no problem.
Right.
There was a
So
blow up.
But yeah, we along with 7 officers of the district could reach over there, and kind of sensitivity we try to elaborate along with this picture. So issue of pillar is also there. For example, but as I think while talking about this pillar, if and even this controversy of the border, if settlement is the same settlement is there in the bordering side. Inside here also same settlement. There's a same origin of the people. For example, entire this western border, same this Gadwali language and even our Sudur Paschim language. Then there is also no problem. If, and even towards this Bihar and UP side, if settlement is the same, for example, Indian origin, Nepalese and Indians, then there is no problem at all. Even if there are this issue like this pillar is laying down, but no one concerned. And then eventually, if it lost out, then it will be the kind of rumor. That is what we identified, and somewhere in some points the border point were very narrow, and even as I mentioned, this 10 gaja or 10 miles were also not maintained. And we try to see. I try to follow this pillar. This was the 2013 pillar. We could see a bit. And again, next year, 2014, I visited, and it was almost disappeared. And then this government, both of this borders management forces were not concerned about this because it was not reported. Once it is reported, then there is hue and cry, and they will settle. This is also the issue. And this is Jhula Ghat. No, I think above it, Darchula and Dharchulapur. And there is very unique system. For example, this inside this bridge there is gate, and this gate will be closed in the evening around 6, and it will be open again in the morning 6 o'clock. But you could sense this side it is very narrow river. Then even if people wanted to cross this border and this gate is closed, these locals say that they can use tire and etc. to cross this border. But this border management team posed this door system in the bridge as well. And this is, I think, December 14, I captured this picture this year only while coming back from Lucknow. And this is towards Nepal side, police is checking bags and etc. Even if it is open border, it has a couple of unique characteristics within this border. I'll highlight it later on. And so I come almost to the end, and we try to whatever problems we have narrated. Whatever problems we have narrated, we try to narrow down it to these 7-8 points. And according to our report, there is superiority and inferiority complex. And though many people don't try to use this superiority and inferiority complex, while discussing with officials who are there for border management and etc., they have this kind of thing. And even if they don't say properly, even other observers and others say that no, this is the issue. For example, Nepalese officers, even CDO and etc., there is border management committee locally installed, and both the CDOs are the chairperson of this, and there is provision to have this meeting quite often, at least within a 6 month, or if needed, then it can be held in 3 months or sometimes. But there are a lot many issues. They don't try to discuss in nitty-gritty. No, not always, but many CDOs and etc. say that no, we sense that no, even if we discuss it and we can't resolve it. That is why we try not to raise this issue, this and that. So superiority, inferiority complex is there, and corruption is very high over there. And I think this is a common phenomenon in the global south. I think even it is the problem of north, but in this global south, this corruption is everywhere, and in border also this corruption has been identified as major issue. further this border problem. And for example, we sense, we visited bordering area, and there is nexus as well within this border security force and local mafias. For example, in Dhangadi area, if early in the morning, if one reach there, then he or she has to pay 400 Indian rupees for the rickshaw. It will only let you go up to 2 kilometers, but they charge 400 rupees. And for that there are 40 rickshaws nexus, and the others rickshaws were not allowed to take passengers. Only those 40 rickshaws can do, and security forces of both countries kept mum while kind of manipulation and kind of sufferance is seen. And also this different priorities we identified from different security apparatus. For example, in case of alcohol and this betel nut, it was very correctly identified. For example, alcohol in India, from Indian side, they always concern about this alcohol area of Nepal border side. Whenever Nepal Indian cross the border to Nepal, then you find lot many alcohol shops, and that is why they complain about this, and why it is allowed, this and that is the complaint, and this is not bothered by the Nepali security force and etc. And the same case about this betel nut. It is hue and cry in Nepal. Police are restless to control this, but they suspend Indian security force SSB for not being able to prioritize this very issue. And even Indian government raised this question, but locally it is not addressed properly. That is what Nepali security forces explain. And there are contradictory government policies, and it is identified towards Nepal side in a big manner, because, for example, is mentioned about this Supari case. Home Ministry is restless to control the Supari, but Trade and Transport Ministry allow Nepali business person to import Supari, and they know that there is no area to consume this much Supari, but they allow, but they and Home Ministry won't allow them to move here and there. That is where we find kind of contradictory government policy. And security and local mafia nexus I mentioned earlier, and duplication of mandate. It is also clearly identified towards Nepal side, because we recently have this armed police force, and earlier we had only Nepal police, and Nepal police was allowed to manage this border as well. And if you travel towards Nepal, in each and every border post you first see this Nepal police post, and they were given this task earlier. But now this armed police force is given this very task, and there is still no clear-cut job description for those two things. That is why it is also the problem over there, and sometimes there is clash between these two police forces, and inequality or huge price difference. As I mentioned earlier, it was goods were cheaper in Nepal side, but nowadays if you observe the market while we are doing this study, per kilo price differences were 30 for onion, and for rice it was 10 rupees. And obviously once you find this cheaper price, obviously people go towards other side to buy this, and these are the things. That is why inequality within the border area is also a major concern. And non-uniform policy. While talking with this, I already showed some photographs. Though it is kind of Nepal-India border, and the task were given to the central force. SSB is also central from India. Central government mobilized this force, and armed police force is also from Nepal government, and even custom and etc. from all will be from center. But policy-wise, if we follow, there are a couple of different policies introduced. For example, in Ilam, one has to register his or her name while crossing the border in the register. And as I mentioned you, towards this western side, far west, there is no open border in the night. Even bridges were locked after 6 o'clock. And as I shows the last picture, even now, after we conducted this report, Nepali police also started searching bags of those who travel towards India. So this is a peculiar kind of aspect introduced by particular border points. So that is how there is no uniform policy. And priority, also we try to identify one major problem of Nepali government. It is by and large for revenue collection. And why we say so was, you see, this is Nepal and India border, and obviously it has to be dealt by both the government. Even if there is no custom office towards India, Nepalese government put this custom office towards Nepali side in the name of Choti Bansa. And the motto behind is to have revenue anyway, whatever, even if it is illegally carried these goods from India, they go for the custom clearance and etc. and allow these materials towards Nepal. That is how we put that this priority of Nepal in revenue collection. That also become one of the problems. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier also, there is high expectation of locals. Sometimes they don't bother or they don't try to understand that we are, even if we are in the bordering area, we are two countries. So we have limitations. For example, for locals, we interviewed a couple of locals towards Nepali side. They were saying, no, why this SSB is needed? I had some social festival, and I required some 500 kg of the sugar, and they didn't allow me, even if I produce this visiting this invitation card and etc. That is how I think high expectation is also one of the issue which is major issue behind this border related problem. And eventually there are some unequal practices as well. We identified a couple of, but out of that there's 72 hours limitation to trucks. Yes, Indian trucks can go to Nepal, Nepali trucks also can come to India, but there is 72 hours limitation, and Nepali truck drivers feel like it is unequal, because for them, if they start carrying this material all the way from Gujarat, they need 4-5 days. That is why this 72 hours is entirely not feasible for Nepali trucks, whereas each and every point of Nepali city, for example, Ilam to Kathmandu to even this Mahendranagar or even Baitadi, one truck can go and come back within 32 hours. That is why this is considered one of the unequal practice. And another unequal practice was this access to car and vans. And it is due to the fact that Nepalese cars can also come to Nepal, India, but it had to follow kind of a bit restricted provisions. For example, it has to have this permission from either Indian embassy or from the consulate. And in Nepal we have only consulate in Birganj, and temporarily now it is in Viratnagar. Otherwise it was only Birganj and Kathmandu which could let you issue the permit for the Nepali cars. And even in that, these car drivers had to produce this bank guarantee and etc. That is why the Nepalese say that there is no access to Nepali cars to India, whereas Indians car can easily go to Nepal. If they are there for one day, they won't be charged anything. They will have to issue a pass, and if they want to spend more days, then they have to pay some 452 Nepali rupee, and they can go up to Himalaya or Kathmandu. And then we discussed this concern with the Consulate General of Birganj, and he was narrating. We even discussed this report over there. It was due to the fact that India had very rigid this policy before it liberalized its economy, and to control foreign cars and etc. the provision was made, and now they are trying to make it flexible. That is what it was reported, and I think later on I think this issue has been taken into consideration, and some provisions are made during the time after we finish this report. So these are the things, and based on these problems, we recommended some 14 recommendations, and how 14 plus recommendation, and to resolve this kind of problem. And I hope we try to. I think I took a bit longer time, but eventually it had to. I had to narrate this. And thank you very much. And whatever concerns you have, Baral sir, and I'll be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you, Uddhav, for this very exhaustive and comprehensive coverage.